Hello, friends, and welcome to today's episode of Booked. I'm Saffron Asteria. I still don't know where to look. I never look in the right place. I'm going to look right at the camera because it's the creepiest. Thank you so much for joining me today, Ben Schenkman. How you doing?
I'm fantastic. Thanks for having me, Saffron.
My pleasure. This has been a long time coming. I remember months and months and months and months and months ago getting an email from you, and I was like, please hold tight. It's coming. And now it's here. So I'm really pleased that we finally got to this point. Yeah. Are you ready to talk about your books and stuff?
Always.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear that. So I just wanted to say hi to the people in the chat. I know that it is a weird time of the year. So we have Stephanie. Hello, Stephanie. How you doing? I won't break my leg unless I fall off my chair. So fingers crossed, but I am very clumsy. And Sarah made it. Thank you so much, Sarah, for coming. Yeah, let's get into it. So first off, I'm going to ask you about your work. So as a sort of brief overview, so you call yourself an urban fantasy author, but what does that mean? And what does that mean for your books if people want to pick them up?
Yeah, so I have to, technically I have to say primarily urban fantasy now that I've actually written a book that is outside of the genre, but my bread and butter, by which I mean like what I write, not that I make any money, is urban fantasy, which means that the books take place in a version of the real world. And my take on urban fantasy is that I want it to be as adjacent to the real world as possible, in that it's really a depiction of the real world plus magic. And then urban fantasy usually has different tropes as far as whether it's a secret world of magic versus a public world of magic. And my books tend towards the secret. So what does it mean for my books? All of my books currently take place in New Haven, Connecticut, which is a college town famous for Yale University, except I went to Southern Connecticut State University. Go Southern, and because I'm not an Ivy League kid, but all of my books take place there, even if they are in slightly different, like alternate universe versions of themselves. It's the only way that I liken myself to Stephen King, in that like all of his books take place in Maine, like when it's his Maine stuff. So far, all of my books take place in New Haven. So you can expect real world stuff, rich locations and places that I have most likely been to, with the added veneer of secret worlds of magic.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. I started reading My Boss is the Devil, and I've had so much fun with it so far. I haven't finished it yet. I've tried to read a book for every guest, and it is hard to read one book a week. So I'm getting my way through it, but it's been so fun to read. There's so much humor, and it's like, I understand there are some serious elements to it and there's some introspective elements to it, but it is very playful and like funny and silly. And I've really, really enjoyed that about this particular book. And when I was researching you, because I like to dig a little bit into, the public records, not having to hide anyone, to learn about each guest. And I'm seeing some serious self-inserts into Nick. There's a lot of parallels. Was that intentional?
Okay, so Nick is a bit of an everyman. Okay, so it's been said elsewhere that we are all Nick. Everyone has been someone down on their luck who is in kind of a dead end situation that they really wish that they could figure their way out of. I did write the book when I was working what I felt like was a dead end job. And so I'm sure that influenced it. I also base a lot of my characters on people that I know. So Nick isn't a self-insert, but he is not a self-insert. It's tough to say. There's plenty of my personality in Nick, but it's a specific flavor of it. I am desperately curious though, what about Nick says self-insert?
It's only like the really surface level stuff, because I don't know you as a person. So the fact that he has a Maine Coon, the love of coffee.
Mhm,
So you're a foodie, and
mhm.
there's a lot of like food influences within the work. So I can see that you've like put in a lot of stuff that you actually care about and that you love. I just thought it was quite interesting, and I just wondered uh, whether it was like an autobiography dressed up as something else. I just was curious. Did you make a deal with the devil?
I mean, I didn't, but some days I feel lucky enough that I could have.
Oh, that's
But
nice.
but I will say I didn't actually have I had cats back in the day,
Hmm.
but I did not have a Maine Coon when I wrote the draft of this book.
Okay.
But it was probably wish fulfillment in that
Hmm.
I wanted to have a Maine Coon cat. So, like, but now I have one. My cat, whose name is Greywind, is like the current real life personification of Odin,
Hmm.
the one-eyed Maine Coon cat in the books.
Okay. It's funny how life works like that because I'm always curious to when I dig into people's backgrounds and their likes and dislikes, or when I sort of get to know them as a person. When I either reflect on the work of theirs that I've read, or then I go on to read it, I just find it fascinating to see how people do mirror parts of their own lives within their work. Because I find that you can tell when people are writing about experiences that aren't theirs, because sometimes there is some uncertainty in the way that they tell that story, but your writing is very confident. Well, it appears to be to me anyway. So I just assumed lived experiences for the most part, apart from you know the conjuring the devil situation.
Yeah, I wasn't a Satanist as a young goth teenager, but I was definitely like a baby neo pagan and all that other stuff. So people have asked like, Ben, how much research did you have to do to get all this religion stuff right? And the reality is a lot
Mm,
of it is just stuff that's been laying around in the back of my head for like a long time.
mm.
So I do spot research when I need to, but I actually know more than I should about a lot of this stuff.
Oh, interesting. So, is it something that you just picked up across your life, or is it the people that you've known that have influenced you in that way? Was it a bit
Yeah,
both?
but because column A, column B,
Yeah,
some of both of those.
interesting. Okay. So your The Devil You Know series, so the three books, is the
Mhm.
series complete? Is the first question.
No.
Okay.
The fourth book. So
Mhm,
I love funny titles. So we've got My Boss is the Devil, which is book
mhm,
one, and that's the story of Nick and the
mhm,
devil. Then we've got Dueling Shoulder Angels, which is the second book, and that introduces God and starts having Amy, the goth witch who was introduced in book one,
mhm,
as being more of a like secondary main character.
mhm,
Then we have the third book, which is Too Many Gods in the Kitchen, and that's when we start going outside of like the Abrahamic God and the devil, and we start introducing pantheons outside
mhm.
of that. Plus, we have another third POV that I can't talk about because it's a terrible spoiler.
Okay, fair enough.
But then we have the fourth book, which is for this like arc. And when I say arc, my arcs are loose. I have things that carry over, but
Mhm,
it's more like a set of serials in that each story wraps itself up and then builds on the last one.
mhm,
They aren't standalone. You should read them in order, but at the same time, each one ends.
mhm,
And if you don't go on to the next one, you won't know what you're missing until you pick up the next one.
mhm. Okay.
However, the fourth book, uh, it's more than the working title. I have a cover done for it. Uh,
Oh,
the
let's
the fourth book is called A Little Death Among Friends,
see. Fantastic.
and you can guess what the topic of the fourth book is, and the fourth book is about death, and that is this book was also like part therapy for me because
Mhm,
I have a look. I feel like any fear of death is relatively rational, but at the
mhm,
same time, like it's a topic that it very easily chucks me into like an existential dread pit.
mm,
Um, So whatever reason, I felt like it was important that I cover that topic. And so book 4, A Little Death Among Friends, is the last book in like this main series.
Mhm.
It's drafted, and I'm currently reading it to my partner right now, which is like my first step in my
Mhm.
like internal editing process.
Mhm.
But I hope to have it out uh, before mid next year.
Okay. That's a reasonable timeline. I was looking at your timelines actually, and between book 1 and book 2, so between My Boss is the Devil and Dueling Soldier Angels, what the hell? Shoulder Angels, there was 6 months. And between Dueling Shoulder Angels and Too Many Gods in the Kitchen was 4 months.
Mhm.
I'm so curious about this timeline, and I wonder if you had like snowballed yourself when you were writing and you just kept going, and then did you plan them all ahead? Like, how did you have such tight deadlines between those books?
So I wrote so while I was about to publish My Boss is the Devil
Mhm.
in December of 2023,
Mhm.
because we're coming up on the 2-year anniversary of the first book.
Mhm.
Uh I wrote Dueling Shoulder Angels, the majority of it, during, the artist formerly known as National Novel Writing Month, in November. Saffron, I'm sorry, I'm funny.
I can't help laughing. I found that hilarious.
So I
Oh.
wrote the majority of Dueling Shoulder Angels in November,
Mhm.
and I finished it in December. Then, while I was editing the second book,
Mhm.
between January and March,
Mhm.
I wrote the third book.
Okay.
So it was just like it just snowballed. I
Mhm.
didn't intend to write it as quickly as I did. It just kind of happened. Um, and then, the delay between doing book 3 and book 4 was, I mean, I hadn't really decided whether the story was over.
Mm.
But I also had 2 other books that were burning a hole in my pocket.
Mhm.
um, which one was Let Sleeping Gods Lie, which I'm,
Mhm.
I'm sure we'll talk about. That's my latest.
Mhm.
And the other one is a book that I am hopefully going to publish by February or March next year. Like
Okay.
it's completely done through my editor, have it back, have a cover, workshop the blurb. It's all done.
Mhm.
It's called My Brother's Keeper,
Oh.
and it's entirely based on, so again, we've got the Devil You Know series,
Mhm.
then we've got the Chronicles of Corbin Pierce,
Mhm.
which is the Let Sleeping Gods Lie is the first book of, and
Mhm.
I'm currently writing the draft of the second book for that. Then we have another new book slash series. The working title for the series is The Cycle of Ash,
Mm. Okay.
which is more of a play on words than anything.
Mhm.
The name of the main character is Max Asher,
Mhm.
and it's another alternate universe, New Haven, where the magic system, or at least from the perspective of this character, it's entirely based on Jewish magic and mysticism.
That's cool. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Um, so is that something that you had to do a lot of research in, or is it something that you had again like a back catalogue of random knowledge about?
That one I did do a bunch of research.
Okay.
So I'm Jewish in that I'm like the worst Jew. Um, I'm Reform.
Mhm.
I'm Reform and effectively non-practicing, and I wrote the book from the perspective of Reform Judaism, in
Mhm.
that I'm not trying to represent orthodoxy in any
Mhm.
way, but the magic is all based on like legit. It If you scratch the surface of
Mhm.
Jewish scripture, and especially a book called the Talmud, uh, it is full of demonology, like
Really?
chock full of demons, lore, tons of it. And then,
Huh.
there the additional writings are called midrash, and
Mhm.
like there's a ton of material about all of that. I also had the pleasure of reaching out to a gentleman that goes by Sadne Ade,
Hmm.
who's the Jewish monster hunter. Like if you Google the Jewish monster hunter, you will
That's
find
amazing.
him.
That's amazing.
And he consulted on my magic system. Like he was an early reader of my manuscript to give me feedback specifically on the magic as done by a representation of magic per scripture.
That's cool. So like adjacent to like a sensitivity reader to make sure that you were representing it correctly. Is that kind of why you went down that path?
Yeah, yes, yeah. It is basically that because like I wanted to get it right
Yeah.
because this is part of my heritage, whether I have embraced it fully for a long time or not. And I wanted to get it right. And as an author, we take creative liberties with real material,
Hmm.
and I wanted to make sure that I didn't take enough liberties to make it wrong.
Yeah. Or like a
Um,
caricature of,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I don't think I like. I'm Jewish. I don't think it would be easy for me to lampoon like it is easy to make that kind of stuff a caricature, but I think that's for more for people who aren't overly sensitive to being lampooned for being Jewish.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's more that I didn't want to accidentally use like the wrong. Basically, I didn't want to inject like Christian spirituality or mysticism into
Hmm.
my Jewish magic
Hmm.
because it's very easy to cross those streams.
For sure. Yeah, I mean there are so many similarities with both, but they're so vastly different. I
Mhm.
think it's interesting to hear when people have an expert in their field review work and how that author responds to those suggestions, because I've
Mhm.
spoken to, and I'm going to be very vague about this, somebody who wrote a particular like westerny type thing, and they had some feedback to say like you can't write this because you're a white dude, and instead of going, okay, so how can I work with somebody to do this thing, they were like scared shitless and didn't want to touch it. But I think there is room for people to be able to write about things that aren't lived experiences, as long as they make the time and the effort to present it to the world in a kind way that is factual and considerate, I suppose. But I mean, people can do whatever they like. This is, free country and all that. But but yeah, it's. I'm glad that you were able to find somebody with such obscure, to me anyway, obscure knowledge. I'm curious to know: is this person like a monster hunter in the sense of like the people that go and look for Bigfoot, or do they just have a lot of knowledge?
A lot of knowledge, speaks about it, does seminars and things. I don't think they're actively like out hunting cryptids. Like,
Oh, a bit disappointed.
I mean, you'd have to check, but I definitely see him more on like a lecture circuit than I do, out in the field. I'm sure he would though. He does have like a website about how you can put together your Jewish monster hunting kit.
I love that so
It
much.
is
Guess what I'm going to do straight after this
after this,
episode?
right after this. Uh, I will say though, you touched on it's funny that you said talked about someone who was writing a book about marginalized voices,
Mm,
um, and that dovetails directly into my latest work, which is "Let Sleep in God's Lie,"
hmm.
because that has a really heavy theme to
Hmm.
it, and I am a Jewish guy.
Hmm.
I am not an indigenous person.
Hmm.
So it was very, very important for me to not try to co-opt a marginalized voice.
Hmm.
The main character isn't indigenous and doesn't claim to be. Specifically, in the beginning, you're going to get some information about how he definitely, really, absolutely is not an indigenous person, and yet why he's involved tangentially with all of this.
Hmm.
There is a supporting character who is an indigenous person because I wanted to make sure that there was representation in the book as well. Because I thought it would be just as bad to write a book starring a white guy and not even having a supporting character that was indigenous when talking about the mythology and the folklore and the practices. So
Mm-hmm.
it's but then there's the other problem that you have, and you need to make sure that you're not tokenizing or having the magical supporting character that is somehow embodies all of this culture. So like it's a tightrope,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and you can choose to walk it. And by all accounts, I feel like I handled it as well as I could. I did consult with a few indigenous people, including clan mother of the Golden Hill Pogussets, which is an
Mm-hmm.
active tribe in Connecticut,
Mm-hmm.
a neighbor of the area. So in the area that this book is based in New Haven, the tribe that would have been present was the Quinnipiac. And
Mm-hmm.
the Quinnipiac were never recognized by the state or federal government and have mostly ceased to exist in an organized fashion because they, as a people, also just kind of dispersed into the communities in which they were a part of.
Mm-hmm.
But they were an Algonquin tribe similar to the Golden Hill Pogussets, which are also an Algonquin tribe. So a lot of the lore and the culture and the tradition is very similar. And
Mm-hmm.
so Clan Mother Shoren Piper was kind enough to both consult with questions that I had, as well as read an early copy of the book and provide some
Wow.
feedback. Also had an early reader, Susie. I'm gonna mispronounce her name, so Susie. Just gonna leave it at that. Uh, um, she's an indigenous person of the. Hold on, I have my acknowledgments just so I don't. Susie Levon. She's of the Anishinaabe people.
Mm-hmm.
And so she also provided some invaluable feedback that I literally changed two or three scenes, like fundamentally,
Wow.
to ensure that that supporting character had the right amount of agency and
Mm-hmm.
was not like I didn't have any unintended tokenism in there. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
long story long, I guess, but uh, but yeah, this book is an example of the. Some people are going to wonder whether a white guy should be writing this book,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like I did it justice in the way that it needed to be done to be a story that honors the culture
Mm-hmm.
and talks about some of the plight of the indigenous people and also the encroachment of urbanization and the loss of native lands without co-opting, the voice.
Mm-hmm. Fabulous. I love the way that your mind goes when you're considering how you're going to represent people. That's very refreshing and much needed. I found I found your TikTok, which wasn't difficult because it's on your website, and I saw that. If this is out of date, I'm sorry, but are you donating proceeds from the sale of this book?
I am, yeah. For forever. I
That's very.
so 10% of any profits that I get,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be donating to. It's a 501c3 charitable organization called Not Our Native Daughters. And Not Our Native Daughters, their mission is to solve the missing, murdered, and exploited Indigenous women's crisis.
Mm-hmm.
So just one of the. I mean, there's a ton of horrors that were perpetrated on the indigenous people of this country.
Mm-hmm.
This is just one organization trying to do that, but it was recommended to me
Mm-hmm.
when I was looking for orgs to donate to as part of this book.
Cool. Well, thank you. I'll put a link to the organization's website in the description of the recording of this video, just in case anyone wants to check them out. But not only will you get a dope ass book, you'll also be doing some good as well. So that's awesome. I didn't want to miss that because I thought it was incredibly important.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I shouldn't forget it, and yet here I am.
It's easy to forget when you've got like a live camera in your face. Like I keep saying words wrong and forgetting what I'm going to ask you, and I do this literally every week. It's totally fine. Um, Now I have to ask you. I'm going to segue away from your books just for a moment because I have to
Totally.
ask. Um, when and how and why did you start a fire dance troupe? I am fascinated to
Oh,
know if you still do that because that is the wildest thing I've heard this year. I think.
so yeah, I do. We don't perform much these days,
Hmm.
but we still exist. So it's called Hubris. It's
Hmm.
a fire performance troupe. It's been 15 plus years now. Uh, it's a. I'm going to try to do long story short this time.
Okay.
So my friend Andy went to a an event down in Maryland that
Hmm.
we used to go to every year. Like it's a campground. It's a like a pan pagan multicultural like event.
Hmm.
And he went. It was one year that I couldn't go, and he went. And then he came back and he said, "Hey Ben, I learned this cool thing at camp, and you're gonna want to know what this is." And then 15 years, well, actually more than that, because we've been performing for that long. I learned how to spin fire like years ago. Um, so yeah, it really started as a Andy learned this cool thing and then passed it on to me like Prometheus, and then from there we would go to this festival, and eventually they brought this professional troupe in that was supposed to teach classes,
Hmm.
and then they didn't show up, and I was practicing
Hmm.
waiting for the class to start, and then someone said, "Hey, you look like you could teach the class." And I said, "Okay." uh, and then I taught classes at that festival for like 10 years. um, and the troupe was made up predominantly of people who like came and took the class, and then like we became friends.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's a weird convoluted story that started with, "Hey, I learned this cool thing," and sets things on fire.
Do you find that you get yourself into situations like that a lot?
Probably more than the average person. Yeah, I
I
mean, I
can't
would
see
say so.
because you like when I was looking up like about you and what you do, it seems like you are constantly wanting to learn new things and you're constantly on the go. Are you like a dynamo? Are you always going all the time? Do you ever stop and not do stuff? Like how does that work?
Rest? What is that word? Um, so I was diagnosed with ADHD as an adult.
Hmm.
So uh, you know, I don't know. I love learning new things, and I do kind of have a limit because I've learned enough things now that I actively do that. Like if a new thing comes, I'm like, oh, that sounds. I'm gonna not do that. I'm gonna not pick that one up.
Hmm.
Like I don't know how to crochet. I don't know how to knit. Uh, you
That's going to be
know,
my next question.
yeah. I mean, I do have like handicrafts. Like I learned how to make nylon bullwhips.
Of course you did.
Um,
Of course you
yeah.
did.
Well, it's also it's a circus thing, like trick cracking and stuff like that. I do that stuff as part of the shows.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, I do love learning things, and I always have. This author thing has been an absolute time sink and energy like focus,
Hmm.
which is also why I think I have so many books in 2 years.
Yeah. I suppose, like, if you really enjoyed doing it, then, I mean, hopefully you do. I mean, if you didn't enjoy doing it, then you wouldn't do it. No, I don't think anyone writes or tries to publish anything or continues to keep publishing things if they don't actually enjoy the act of, storytelling or forming words in shapes on a piece of paper. Um,
It 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 depends on how tortured of an artist they are, because like,
yeah.
tortured artists do it because they must, not because they enjoy it, but because they will suffer even more greatly than they suffer now if they don't.
Hmm.
I'm not that kind of tortured artist. I actually do enjoy what I do.
Hmm.
Do I wish some of it was easier? Yeah. I wish some of this was less like having a second and third job. Because yeah, like writing the books is one job, and then like getting anyone to read the books is another job.
Full time with night
Yeah.
shifts. Yeah. I just like to bring this. Hi, Mike. I'm glad you're here. Also, thanks for the books. Uh, I'm sorry that you missed that, but I dig for the weird stuff. That's what I'm after. Give me the
It's
five ounces. Give me the monster hunters. I'm into it. So
Mike Molman, so we meet again.
yeah, it's always lurking in the bushes. That was a weird thing to say. I'm going to move on. So having looked at how you've published this, because I'm always curious as to like whether people go down the self-publishing route or whether they go with an indie publishing house. And so all of your books that I've seen anyway, correct me if I'm wrong, are through Caffeinated Terrier Press. I would love to know more about this.
Yeah,
I don't want to
and
assume.
that's like the cute little like paw
Adorable.
print.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, so Caffeinated Terrier Press. So one thing that you learn as a new independent author is
Mhm.
that when you publish your book, you can, should you choose, put an imprint name, a publisher's name, when you publish your books.
Mhm.
And the funny thing is, uh, there's no one to stop you. And so I decided, so it's one of those questions that people ask is, should I use a publisher name even if I'm self-publishing?
Mhm.
Because some people feel like published by Ben Schenkman doesn't mean anything,
Mhm.
but published by Caffeinated Terrier Press means something to someone. So basically, some authors choose an imprint name for themselves because it gives their books a little bit more legitimacy in the face
Mhm.
of people thinking self-published books aren't real books,
Mhm.
which, for the record, as we all know, is complete crap. Um,
Shit opinion. Don't agree with
yep,
it.
absolutely. So caffeinated. Funny story. Caffeinated Terrier Press came from one of my earlier like marketing things for Nick
Okay.
in My Boss is the Devil, because Nick doesn't have golden retriever energy. Nick has caffeinated terrier energy. And because I was like, well, how do I talk about this main character? Like
Mhm.
he's not a cinnamon roll. He's not a I mean he's kind of a cinnamon roll, but not really. And
Mm.
he's not a golden retriever, but he's kind of it's like, oh, but he's an over caffeinated terrier. Like, oh, there it is. Caffeinated terrier. And so the first book actually wasn't published under Caffeinated Terrier Press until I put the second one out and like
Mm.
retroactively changed the first
Okay.
one. So once I got past book one, Caffeinated Terrier Press was born. And
Mhm.
it's actually like it's an official, like I have a DBA doing business as registered in my town for
Mhm.
Caffeinated Terrier Press under my name.
Mhm.
And then what I've done though is when I was dusting off my manuscript, which was like 10 years dusty,
Mhm.
uh, one of my friends, David Nemitz, who's an epic fantasy author, another local, he's in Connecticut, I'm in Massachusetts,
Mhm.
but I've known him for years. He invited me to this Discord, which was this little authors co-op of just us supporting each other, talking about word counts, feedback, that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And it was delightful. It was great, and it was one of the reasons why I feel like I've been successful in the sense of like keeping this going. Is the indie author community is fantastic for the
Mhm.
most part, and carving out your own little like subset of it is actually, I think, really critical in that it can't just be it can't always be faceless strangers on the internet.
Mhm.
Having a local group that's a little bit more like meat space,
Yeah.
is important.
Mhm.
And then it kind of grew from there. So I started this imprint, and then I said, "Hey, folks, uh, we could all publish under this imprint. Like anyone who wants to publish under the imprint is welcome to do so. It gives
Mm.
us some more credibility. We get to share in the work and promotion, and it adds a little bit of weight to what we're doing. And
Mm.
so right now, Caffeinated Terrier Press has works by David Nemitz, or I should say, David Nemitz has published some of his works under Caffeinated Terrier Press.
Mm-hmm.
Tall Good, who has a middle grade series, just published all of that. My friend Laurie Nielsen, a new urban fantasy author, just published her debut novel under the imprint. And so, like, we're collecting a pretty decent amount of quality books
Mm-hmm.
just out of this local group. We also have our own Discord now that is like widely available for people to join if they're interested in chatting
Cool.
and supporting each other. But the code itself is for Connecticut and Massachusetts authors, like for people to publish under the imprint, to join the co-op, which is, I'm not going to lie, we still don't know what joining the co-op means. We haven't figured that part out yet.
Okay.
But like eventually, like if we decided to say set up an LLC, then membership would mean something and there'd be dues and other stuff involved. But yeah, so Caffeinated Terrier Press was born of me wanting to give a little bit more legitimacy to my work. And now it's turned into a way for me to help other indie authors. So like, I paid the money to have some formatting software. So now if one of my friends in the co-op wants a book formatted, I format the book for them instead of them having to go pay $200 for the software. Like, it's just we share resources, we workshop our blurbs, we give feedback on covers, snippets and ideas, and just mostly just cheerleading for each other on like daily or weekly word counts.
That's so nice. That is so nice. What a fantastic, healthy environment to exist in. That's really cool. Things like that, I think, are so important for fostering creativity, because if you feel suppressed in any way because of like financial barriers, or you don't feel like you have support, or like, what the hell do I do next? Having even like one other person that you know that can help you work through those kinks in the whole process is so invaluable. And I do agree, there is an element of like these much larger groups where they're like great for networking and like trying to get traction in some way, but they don't do the same job as like an intimate group of people will do, giving like honest feedback rather than just saying that everything you do is amazing. Because I think it's important, and this is something that I've learned throughout this process. I'm thinking back to like over a year ago when I interviewed my first ever person on this show, and I was like, man, I don't think I could take criticism from people because my feelings will get hurt and that'll make me sad. And now I'm like comparing it to like if you have broccoli in your teeth and nobody tells you, same thing. If you're walking around publishing books that are shit, excuse my French, and people are like, yeah, it's not very good, but they're like, this is amazing, and I feel like that's the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, you also need to get, so this gets into, kind of like general how-to stuff, but you need to get feedback from people that aren't like close, intimate members of your sphere. I kind of disagree with everything that you write needs to be critiqued like to the nth degree by people. I don't think that's as realistic as people think it is. But also I think indie authors and indie books get a level of scrutiny that people don't apply to traditionally published books, because I can tell you so many traditionally published books right now that are coming out are absolute garbage. That like if I handed it to you and told you it was an indie author and you couldn't read the author's name, you'd be like, well, this is awful. You probably should have had an editor touch this. And then like you reveal and it's like Brandon Sanderson, but they don't do the same thing to indie books. They look at indie books and they go, oh, that's terrible. And it actually isn't terrible. You're just being weirdly super critical because you place a higher standard on self-publishing because of the stigma attached to it. That being said, you do still need to get honest to goodness opinions on your writing for people that won't hurt your feelings, that won't be afraid of hurting
Mm-hmm.
But I do think like the standard applied to self-published versus traditional books there's a double standard there.
There is a massive double standard, and I think some of it is like assumptions that aren't based on experience. And unfortunately, if you read like one indie book and it's not very good or you don't like it, then the assumption is that all of them are going to be like that, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I had never considered, before starting all this stuff I'm doing, I never considered that people self-publish first. I didn't think that was a thing until I looked into it and I thought, people are stressing themselves out like this? That's amazing. And when I look at, I've said this before and I'll say it again, when I see people in the query trenches, miserable, miserable as heck, they still have to do the same, if not similar, amount of work for marketing and, putting themselves through a lot of stress and trying to get to the point where people will read it or, an agent will pick it up or whatever. And then there are people like yourself who are like, I think I'm going to write a series and then another one and then another one. And you're churning them out and they're fun and the covers are awesome and you're setting a really good standard for what I want people to see in indie books. And some people are still querying, and you've done all that. Like, life is so short, and I wonder if this plays into when you mentioned earlier having this like fear of death, is that you want to achieve all these things, and if death comes, you can't achieve the things. So I wonder if some of that plays into it as well.
It really does. Less fear of death, but more the acknowledgement that time is a linear thing that isn't stopping.
Mm-hmm.
It was my birthday last week, and I just turned 45.
Happy birthday! You're
Thank you.
Stupid.
I have aged well. That really depends. But depends on who you ask. So let me give you a very brief timeline. So I was telling my friend about indie versus traditional publishing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I'm going to give you the very generous numbers because usually they're much worse than this.
Okay.
So let's say I finish writing a book. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Book is ready to go out to the query trenches. Okay, fine. I'm going to go out and I'm going to query the book. Let's say that it takes me 12 months to land an agent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I take 12 months to land an agent. Okay, great. The agent takes my book. It then take 12 months to shop my book around and try to sell my book.
Mm-hmm.
Takes them 12 months to get a book deal. Let's say they get me a book deal after 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
Then the publishing house, I have to go through rounds of edits with the publishing house. Let's say that takes another 6 months, maybe. And then maybe I get on the publishing house's schedule for 2 years after that, because publishing houses schedules, especially if you get into those, like we're talking about like a big 5, let's say a big 5 publishing house, I'm going to be on their schedule 2 years after the book is ready to be published. And then on top of that, I'm a debut author and therefore will have zero marketing budget behind me and will be doing all of that myself. So from me finishing the book to my book hitting the shelves was what, 4.5 years? And that's generous. Like some people land an agent in 3 months and they sell their book in 3 months. Those are the golden children of which I do not understand how they have been so blessed by whatever power they believe in. Because everyone on TikTok that tells you they got an agent after on their 5th query and then their agent sold their book 3 months later is either a liar or is just like luckier than God. Because I'm in these servers with all of these people pursuing traditional publishing and they're like, I've written my 3rd book. I haven't found an agent for a single one yet. And it's been 3 years. I'm like, oh my God. So like I'm 45. I cannot, and to be fair, the only reasons Let's Leaving God's Lie was published in October and not earlier
Mm-hmm.
is because I shopped that book. Like I had a friend who acted as my agent
Mm-hmm.
because she's got a background in publishing and was trying to get into being a literary agent. And I was like, sure, why not? Let's help each other out. And she tried to sell my book. We got interest from one publishing house out of, let's say, 40 that she reached out to. By the way, there's also like the literary agent world is a horrific mess that is a whole separate thing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not like an agent that did their time as an intern for another agency and
Mm-hmm.
like isn't certified through whatever arcane process that they have for certifying literary agents,
Mm-hmm.
like there are publishing houses that won't even talk to you.
Yeah.
Um, but we got interest from one like medium-sized publisher who asked for synopses and socials. And then I have to imagine that my social media platform wasn't big enough for them to care about my books anymore.
That's really sad.
Yeah. So I shopped my books, both
Mm-hmm.
Let Sleeping Gods Lie and My Brother's Keeper, which My Brother's Keeper is like the most commercially viable book that I have written. And like, so my editor, who does not blow smoke up my ass, um, she 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 said that My Brother's Keeper was the best of my books so far and was, quote, something special. So like,
Interesting.
yeah, I was like, I'm going to take that with a grain of salt, but like, but thank you. So like basically she agrees that that book has commercial viability,
Mm-hmm.
but like no one wants it. Like I've also queried agents. I've queried agents with My Brother's Keeper, and you know, uh, we wish you luck on your journey. We just don't see how this book fits into our current catalog, and don't take it personally.
Except you
uh,
will take it absolutely
yeah.
personally, and we'll think about it when you go to bed.
So like,
It's-
yeah, I don't have time anymore to
Mhm,
wait for other people to decide that my books are worth having an audience,
mhm.
and so I'm self-publishing from here on out unless some sort of magic happens.
Good for you for making that decision. I was actually going to ask you if you were just going to keep querying just for the sake of it, or if you were just going to keep putting them out. But as I said, and as you said, I think as well, you are going to be responsible for doing all that marketing anyway. So you may as
Yeah,
well have way more control over the entire process. But I mean, each to their own, and good luck to
yeah,
anyone that is querying. And if that's your dream and that's what you want to do, I hope that you're successful. But I think sometimes the act of actually having that story out there for people to enjoy is the most important thing to some writers. And for some writers, happiness in your field is achieving that thing. If that's a goal that you have, then nobody's got control over that really in any sense of the word. It's just sometimes luck of the draw, sometimes it's the market, sometimes it's talent. um yeah, it's fascinating. This whole process and industry is just a hot mess. um and I'm hoping that the tides start turning on people's opinions of indie work, because it's some of the best books that I've read. The best book I've ever read in my whole life was written by an indie author. I've read a lot of books, so yeah. And I think I've DNF'd, and I do this a lot. I do DNF books a lot because there are too many books for me to read one that I don't enjoy. I'll give it like halfway through, and if it's still not doing it for me, then I don't bother. They've largely been trad books, because I've thought this is just vapid nonsense, that fulfills some criteria that hasn't got any heart. But what I really love, and I said this earlier, is getting to know the person, and then I get to enjoy the book even more, because then like I see the motivations behind telling the story, and I can see the difficulties that person had working through plot holes and things like that, and it makes it feel like a real thing to me rather than just this inanimate object that has words in it. So yeah, I wondered from your perspective what success looks like to you as a writer, because it's totally different to everybody, but I'm just curious about you.
so if my just as a anecdote, if my goal was to make money, I wouldn't be writing urban fantasy.
Yeah.
uh it's not the most popular genre
Yeah.
unless your last name ends in butcher.
Mhm.
And there are people who love it, but for the most part, like it's not a super popular genre for indies.
Mm-hmm.
However, the people who love urban fantasy still read books. So
Mm-hmm.
success for me is people reading and enjoying my books.
Mm-hmm.
I totally understand that not every book is for everybody. And if you don't like my books, that's fine. You're not going to hurt my feelings by not liking my books.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but if you do like my books, you're going to make my day
Mm-hmm.
because like that's, I'm here that as an author, my goal is to write books that people laugh while they're reading, have a good think, and maybe come away having learned something about the world or themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe are a little bit more socially or emotionally aware than they were before. The tagline that I gave The Devil You Know, my first series, is it's going to have you laughing through your existential crisis. Because it covers a lot of really deep topics
Mm-hmm.
through the veneer of dark comedy.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where, like, if you're liking the first book, I think you're gonna like the others. And like, I make people cry in the third book, and it's definitely gonna happen in the fourth book
Oh,
too.
I'm
Um,
crying. Oh, it's not going to put me off. I'm still going to read
yeah,
it.
you should.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've really, really been enjoying the way that you write, and
thank you.
I heard in a previous interview that you did that, that you recognise that as you've written more books, you've improved your uh, craft and how things are structured. So I'm interested to see how much better it gets because it's pretty good so far. Um, do you have any physical copies of any of your books to hand? And if so, I'd love to see them. And you can show them off if you'd
I
like.
have all of them.
Excellent. Whilst we're doing this, if you have any questions, anyone that's
Yeah.
watching, please put them in the chat.
All right. So we've got My Boss is the Devil.
Stunning covers, by the way. I really
I
love these covers.
I love these. Also, like, to be clear,
Hmm.
for new authors or even experienced authors, you don't need to break the bank to get a good cover. All of my covers, other than Underleveled, which I'll show,
Hmm.
all of my covers are done by Get Covers, which is the budget arm of Miblart, which is I believe, Ukrainian design company.
Oh, cool.
And like this cover,
I think it's backwards. Hang on, I'm going to see if I can
it's
mirror your camera.
there you go.
Better. Okay, cool.
Okay, so this cover, these covers, their package is $35.
No kidding.
But you have to know what you want because you're going to give them feedback,
Hmm.
to tell. And then this is Dueling Shoulder Angels.
Hmm.
Okay. And then we've got Too Many Gods in the Kitchen.
I love that yellow.
Yeah. But guess what color book 4 is?
Purple.
No, but you're close.
Blue.
Yeah, blue.
I was gonna guess blue, and I was like, "No, you said guess what?" And I was like, "I bet it's not the obvious one."
No, it's totally the obvious
Guess
one.
what?
And then here's a secret though. So Let Sleeping
Mhm,
Gods Lie.
mhm.
This cover is not the permanent cover. This
Okay.
is the get covers that I used to get me to publication because I
Mhm,
had told my readers that the book was coming out.
mhm.
I just received the final files for a recover for that first book, which is a
Cool.
fully illustrated cover from Miblard. That one was not $35.
I imagine it wasn't.
And then my latest, which is actually this one was co-authored with my friend AJ Poppy Alexanders.
Mhm,
This is a light progression fantasy
mhm,
that was written as part of the Inkfort Publishing Derby. So it's Underleveled, The Legend of Rolf.
mhm.
Everyone Loves a Dinosaur. That
Love that.
figures prominently in the book in a way that you're not going to expect.
Excellent.
Uh, but yeah, Poppy, great friend of mine,
Mhm.
great author, has a blurb on the back of Let Sleeping Gods Lie. Can I swear on this? Is this okay?
Hell yeah, you can.
Yeah. So the blurb from Poppy for Let Sleeping Gods Lie is "Fuck you for writing a book this good."
That is such a good blurb. I
So
love
yeah,
that.
For the record, if there's a blurb from Poppy on My Brother's Keeper, which is forthcoming,
Mhm.
the blurb is I threw the book across the room. Like they want a copy of the book just so they can hurl it across the room.
Fantastic. I
Uh,
feel like that's such a good compliment.
it is. It really is. I appreciate it. So yeah, those are all. Also, Caffeinated Terrier Press. We just released an anthology.
Oh,
It's
cool.
like a micro anthology. There are
Mhm,
four short stories in it,
mhm.
each by one of the members of the co-op. Each of which is either a prequel or like a side story in our existing worlds.
Oh,
So it's kind of like a Caffeinated Terrier Press sampler, in that you get a taste for each of the authors. My short story is called "The Thief of Joy,"
mhm,
which is a prequel to "The Devil You Know." It's how Nick got in the Devil's crosshairs in the first place,
mhm.
and introduces a character named Frank that I think is actually entertaining enough that I might do a standalone like early prequel for him one day, because I think he's he's like if you inserted Jeffrey Dean Morgan into my books.
That sounds like a lot of fun. How is that out now?
It's yeah. So a season for stories, a Caffeinated Terrier Press anthology is out now. It is not in so all of my books other than that are in Kindle Unlimited.
Mhm.
The anthology is not. It's 99 cents for the ebook, or you can buy a paperback. I will say, like, if you sign up for my newsletter, you get a copy of The Thief of Joy for free, but you don't get the other ones. So, it's still a good way to support Caffeinated Terrier Press.
Fabulous. I'm going to put your links in the chat just for anyone that's still around now. So you can sign up to Ben's newsletter through his website. There's also the links to, I think, your socials
Mhm.
and the link to Let's Sleep in God's Lie as well. I will put those in the description of this episode. Sarah had a question. She likes to ask this question. Do you know Pingu? Have you
Wait,
heard
like
of Pingu?
the is hold on. Is that the claymation penguin? Yeah, I know
Yeah,
Pingu.
creepy. It's a fascinating question that she asks a lot of people because I don't think it made it to Australia. I think that's the only one, maybe New Zealand,
Oh, okay.
one of the two. But
Yeah. Oh, he's like the crab. Isn't he like the crabby penguin? Isn't he like angry all the
he's
time? Or is
often very pissed,
yeah,
and he just says "newt newt" all the time.
yeah, Newt Newt. Oh yeah, I will say like that is like an echolalia thing that sometimes my partner or I will just be like fucking Newt Newt.
Fabulous. So there you go, Sarah. There's another Pingu Noah for you. Yep, there we go.
Newt Newt.
Yeah. Oh dear. So my last question. So anyone that does have
Okay.
a pending question, now's your last chance to ask in the chat. Whether it's about cartoon characters or whatever, I don't know. Do you have any advice for any indie authors that might be watching or listening to this?
Yeah, so I have two things. One is going to be very short and off the cuff.
Mhm.
But like my first piece of advice is don't use generative AI. I'm just going to leave that out there and throw that out.
Approved message. Mhm.
If you have to ask why, then maybe reconsider your avocation as an artist.
Yes.
Uh,
Or research it and learn.
yeah, yeah. So my actual advice, besides that off the cuff advice, know why you want to publish and why you want to write, because it's going to influence the choices that you make.
Mhm.
As I mentioned earlier, if I wanted to make money, I would write like smutty romance. I wouldn't write urban fantasy.
Yeah.
But my goal is not to make money. My goal is to build an audience of people that love my books. And
Mhm.
I feel like I'm actually doing pretty well at that so far.
That's cool.
Uh, but know why you want to publish, because if it's to make a living, then you have to care about things like writing to market, making sure that your covers are on genre
Mhm.
and tell the story that you want them to tell, and that you do the things that you need to do to become like a commercially successful author.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you're writing because you have a story to tell, then the advice that I'm going to give you as an author in that same space is going to be different.
Mm.
There's still going to be things like having a cover that says the genre of the book, because uh you know God save you if you make a cover that is not the right genre, because you will be crucified for it. um but like, you don't have to care about, like, you can write a very you can write a cerebral book. You can write an existential book. You can go for an epistolary novel about the the adventures of Pingu in the wild, as written by his travel journal. Like, whatever. You you can do whatever you want if you don't care about making money.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but then you still have to decide why you want to publish, because it's going to determine whether do I go traditional publishing. By go, I mean, you don't get to pick, you get to try. Like, do I try traditional publishing, or do I try self-published books?
Mm-hmm.
My friend Lori, who just published her work through Caffeinated Terrier Press and is writing her second book,
Mm-hmm.
she said, should I think about querying? And I said, how much do you like rejection? And she said, I don't like it at all. I said, then you should not pursue traditional publishing.
Yeah, that would be bad.
uh yeah, if your feelings, if you can stand having your feelings hurt about people not liking your book, but you can't stand to have your feelings hurt by being rejected on queries, self-publishing is definitely for you. Because a lot of people, it is like, they can just never read the comments, and their book is out there, and it'll find, and hopefully you find your audience.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so my ultimate uh, advice is, know why you want to publish, why you want to write, and that is going to inform a lot of decisions that you make.
That is fantastic advice. Thank you. So we do have one last question, and that is also from Sarah. She's representing the chat today. Do you have a favorite book, like a favorite kid? As in, is there any one of your books that you published that is your favorite one?
So we're not allowed to have favorites.
But everybody does anyway.
So, not gonna lie,
Mm-hmm.
my favorite book that I have written so far, and that includes, like, I've written the fourth book in this series. I'm writing the second book in another series. So far, my favorite book is still the one that I haven't published yet, which is My Brother's Keeper.
Mm.
I don't think people have no way to understand how hot the hole this book is burning in my pocket, that I want to release it into the world. Uh, for anyone who likes advanced, so there's ARC readers, which is advanced review copies.
Mm-hmm.
So, being an ARC reader, you get a copy of the book before it's published,
Mm-hmm.
in exchange for you posting an honest review, like, on release day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be opening ARCs for My Brother's Keeper probably in January.
Oh, watch this
So,
space.
yeah, if you want to keep informed about that, join my ARC team. There's an application on my website. I
It is.
also do communicate through my newsletter, but I specifically have an ARC form
Mm-hmm.
for people who want to sign up.
Cool.
So yeah, my favorite, I, of course, I have no favorite children, but if I had to pick to save one from a burning building, it would be My Brother's Keeper. It's just like, it has noir vibes, and
Oh,
it's a grittier story, and it's a story that I wrote based on knowing the twist at the end, and I was just waiting to write that twist.
well, that's cool. So you finally got to do it.
I was ecstatic, and yeah, like it. So I have some alpha readers, like, I have alpha readers that have read My Brother's Keeper, and, like, not to toot my own horn, but, like, occasionally I will get a message from one of them being like, I still think about the twist in that book.
That's fab.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Okay, well, sold. Obviously, I'm going to read it. That's very cool. Well, thank you so much for spending your time with me today. And before I say goodbye, is there anything else that you wanted to share with the people watching or listening before I shut this down forever?
I don't know. My brain's fried. It's all off now. But
I get you. I get you.
yeah, no, but this has been fantastic. Thank you for having me on, Saffron.
Of
I was looking
course.
forward to it. And I know like Christmas Eve to a Jewish person is less important, so I appreciate you being on here talking with me on Christmas Eve.
Of course. My thing is like, as long as I get all the food I want, I'm gonna have booze for breakfast tomorrow. Those are like my Christmas traditions. I have to be
There you go.
uncomfortably full and prosecco on waking. So
Ooh,
those are my like only requirements.
good
As an
choice.
adult, as a child, the traditions were different. Anyway, before I paint myself with the alcohol brush, thank you again, and thank you to everyone that joined today. I know that today's like one of those weird days where you want to get away from the family or whatever. But yeah, anyone that's listening to the recording or watching the recording, I will put the links for everything in the chat. And go check out Ben's books because they are fab. I'll see you on the other side, Ben.
Thank you.
Goodbye, everybody.